Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. We're really excited to have everyone here for our Changeover training series, District Grants for Grant Administrators. Oh, click the wrong button. So I am your host today. My name is Zach Woods. I am the lead product specialist here for ClubRunner, and joining me today is Omar.
Hello, everyone.
Omar's another one of our product specialists who's been with us for a while, and I'm really happy to have him here with me. He's always a great backup partner. All right, so today's webinar, we are going to be going over and providing an overview of the district grants module from an administrator's perspective. We're going to be covering the entire process from setting up applications to the approval process. We'll go on most of the journey from both the district and club perspective as they move a grant through it. And I guess before I dive into our topics and everything else, I do need to go over some quick general housekeeping things just for everybody joining us. We do have two different ways today to interact with our team. We do have a chat running, so anyone, if you guys have any questions or you wish to chat amongst yourself about the grants process, the chat is there for you. Additionally, we have a Q&A box, so if you have questions about the content that you're seeing or just about the grants module in general, please drop all of that into the grants or the Q&A box. That way we'll be able to cover it at the end of our session. So ideally, if you can, keep the questions Q&A. That way we can tag them and make sure we get you answers. But otherwise, if you do ask a question in the chat, Omar will do his best to either make sure we address it during the session, or if we don't have the time for it for some reason, we'll reach out to you guys after. All right, with that said, let's dive into our agenda. So we are going to do an overview of the grants module itself, how you qualify and set members to be, how you qualify both clubs and members and make sure that their club is able to submit a grant and work through the process, the grants settings and notification options, the approval workflow, and the club application process. Let's dive in. I went one step too far there. All right, give me just 1 second. I thought I had hit a different button. Apparently I did not. So, all right, continuing right along here. So to get started, we are going to go from our homepage here at clubrunner.ca. We're going to log in and enter into the district's administration system. So from here, we are starting at clubrunner.com. We're going to hit our login link. This is going to bring us to our new login system. This is available for every customer on the platform. And the best part about the new login system is it will give you some options about where it delivers you to. So if you're one of those individuals where you're an administrator at your club and your district, using the homepage login for ClubRunner is really fantastic because you'll always have a choice about where you land. So as you can see, the browser has already been really helpful here and has filled in both my username and password for me already. I'm going to go ahead and hit login, and you can see immediately we are given an option because we submitted the correct login information to either go to our club or our district. And in this case, because we are going to be talking about the grants module, we definitely need to go to the district, where Aaron is not only a district administrator, but a district grant administrator. So we have now landed in our grants. We've now landed in our district account, and we can head into the grants module. And before we start getting everything into the grants module, just to kind of go as an overview of what the module is able to do. So the grants module allows our districts to digitize their grant process. You can manage permissions, documents, and all of your grants in a singular place. Clubs are able to submit their grants requests and work side by side with the district to process, collect any information that's required, and continue to keep the grant flowing from the very start all the way to the point where you disperse the funds, and hopefully they give you their final project report. Notification can be configured for each and every stage of the grant and to whom it's received, whether it's going to the grant administrators, grant committee members who are seeing the day-to-day operation of the grant, the club contacts, and their AGs. We also have storage not only for the grants module itself, but each grant has document storage so that any of the required documentation, receipts, paperwork can all be collected individually for grants, and also on those individual grants, in addition to being able to have general documents available for all members using the grant system. And lastly, there's a lot of tracking with grants financials, which we won't be getting into too much for this demo, but it does allow the district to record all of the financial transactions. So the money that you have available for grants, all of the requests for the clubs for their payments, and how much each club got for their payments. All right. Let's go ahead and dive into the first part of the actual grants module, and that is qualifying clubs and their members. So under the district grant system here, we are on the district grants submenu item, and you can see on the left-hand side, we have a whole host of different options to move around the grants module. We can view all of our grants, we can view our qualified clubs, we could submit a grant request because we're an administrator. We could get into our reports or documents or any of our settings, but as I mentioned, we're going to start with qualifying clubs. So I am going to click on the qualified club list. This brings me to the current organizational year because we are still in 2023-24 for the Rotary year. I know the grants year runs a little offset to that, but we do keep the grants module and organization timeline for the grants module. Now you can see here that we have some help text. Grant administrators like Aaron, the user who I'm logged into, have access to modify this help text. Normal day-to-day grant users who are moving grants through do not, but if the district decides that they need to have more of these items or less of these items, not only can you modify the help text to make sure that the users qualifying them are up to date and understand it, it also can be configured in the system. You can have more trained members, you can have less trained members, you can remove the requirement for the memorandum of understanding, for example. Now for today, we are going to be working with the Rotary Club of Kipling, which is our demo club. And you can see here that the Kipling Club is currently not qualified to submit grants. And because we have not customized this district's grant configuration, or at least not customized it away from the standard, right now, to be qualified for the current year, they have to have at least 2 trained members, and they have to have a signed memorandum of understanding. Now, right now, the Kipling Club only has 1 member, and they do not have their memorandum of understanding signed or at least uploaded to the system. So let's go ahead and click on the Rotary Club of Kipling so we can pull them up, and we can take a look and see what needs to be done. So we can see that Enrica, one of their members, is trained for the club, but it's only 1 and they don't have any past members. So in order to train and get the member added, or in order to help qualify this club rather, we will add a new member to help them meet the requirement of 2 trained members. All right, so now that we're on the Add Trained Member page, we can click our drop down to see all of the members of the club. We will go ahead and pick Carly Maxted. We will say that they were trained this past weekend on April 28th on Sunday, and their effective date will also start the same day. This is nice so that if you have training that happens before the year, you can train them on a specific date and then start their access on a different date. So if you wanted to start their access for the next calendar or Rotary year, you could change this and say that, you know, they're not effective until July 1, and because it follows the organization year, they will not have access to submit grants until this effective date has passed. If there's any expiry date for the members, you can click into the box here and set that specific expiry date. Effectively, just like the effective date, it does the same thing. It cancels their access once that expire date has passed. In some cases, though, I just want to call out that they can still submit their access for the years that they had access to effectively, but they won't be able to after the expiry date for any new organizational years. Additionally, if there was any document that the member completed at the time, or if, signature, picture, what have you, you'd be able to click choose file. You could upload the file from your computer and you could continue on. So I'm just going to set no for the expiry, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now this club, oh no, I put them into the future. Let's move that back here. All right, let's just make that the same effective date as today. Go ahead and save. There. I need 2 active trained members so he can continue with this process. Now, we could also add a club's qualification document. In this case, it's just a file upload, PDF, HTML, JPEG, whatever you think is, whatever the club or district thinks is appropriate. You can upload that file. Once the file is uploaded, it would just be there. It'll show who added it, when it was added, and access to view the file. But we're also going to say that this club has signed their MOU, and go ahead and hit save. You can see immediately we now have 2 trained members. Someone has affirmed that there is a signed MOU. In most cases, there would also be a document that would follow along with this assigned MOU. And we are good to go for this club. So in theory, the Rotary, not in theory, in practice, the Rotary Club of Kipling is qualified for the current 2023-24 year and can now submit new grants. Now, if we wanted to change these settings for qualification, we can use under settings and customization, the settings link. And here you will see that we have some options. We could increase the number of trained members. We could say that it needs 4 or 5 or 10 or 100, however many numbers that you want, all the way down to 0. If you have 0 trained members, that means that as long as that they have the MOU, and if you require both the MOU and the trained members, effectively every club in the district is able to submit a grant request. The one catch-all is that they do need at least someone to serve as a grant contact, but otherwise, once a club is qualified, all the club officers of the club can also submit a grant. So I will pump this back up to 2. Actually, let's just try 3, and I'll still leave grant MOU requirement. And after making that change, when we go to the qualified club list, you can see that none of our clubs are now qualified because none of them meet the requirement of 3 trained members. So in this case, if that was the new setting for the district, I would also update the district's grant help text and hit save. And now the qualified club list and the help text for this page are accurate. But we're going to change that back to 2 so we can continue on with our process. We could also technically go add a 3rd member, but I would like to return the settings back to the default for the next administrator who comes in and gives a demo for us. All right, so moving back here, we can see that our Rotary Club of Kipling is now qualified. They have the 2 members, they have the MOU, they have the nice big green check mark. This club is ready to submit a grant. We're not going to get to grants just yet, or at least the process that's going to be a little bit later. I do want to keep going over some more settings areas. So let's take a look at the notifications and email templates. So as an administrator, as a regular grant member, a qualified club member, or a grant user who are your grants committee members, as they're using the system, we can set up triggers and notifications to go to different disparate groups. So for example, when a brand new grant is initially submitted, we have an email going to grant administrators and grant users. We can view who these users are, we can view who the current list of users are by clicking on the view users list, and you can see that these are the current grant administrators, whereas these are the current grant users. As a very quick comment, grant administrators have full control of the system, including access to things like the settings and customizations, whereas grant users, they don't have access to the customizations, but they do have access to manage all of the grants and move them along the grants flow, as well as entering grants money and grants documents. But grant administrators, we have configured for more things, and in some cases, we also have the grant user set up for them. But if we wanted one message to go to the administrators when they submit the grant and another message to go to the users, we'd be able to do that. We can do that by adding a new notification. we'll choose from any status to initial submitted. And in this case, we want to notify the club contact and the area governor, and we could pick any of our templates. Now we don't have, actually we do. We have the perfect template for this because I must have done it last time or someone else must have set this up. Someone has added a new template, initial grant submitted to the club and to the AG. So now when I go ahead and hit save, we will see that there is another initial request submitted. In fact, we have two here because we added it last time. This is not a default one. This is an extra one. Let me go ahead and, oh wait, not that one, this one, since I've made extra work for myself here. So we have two grants going to this, two messages rather going to the same status. The only difference is who receives the message. So the grant administrators and the grant users get the default grant request receive, whereas the grant club contact and area governor will receive the initial grant submitted email, making sure that the right people see the right messages. I would say most of our grant messages are applicable to be received by most of the members who can interact with the grant system, but obviously we'd really like to give you the power to customize those notifications. So if you need different messages going to the different groups, you can fully customize and set those up. In addition to our email notifications, or rather, in addition to, sorry about that, rather, as powering our notifications are the email templates behind it. Now, most customers have all of our standard grant notification templates, and these are the current grant notification templates. We have a lot of really good information in here, and we try to make sure that the grant message is really on target for the person receiving it. So it always goes to the user. We always try and tell who the sponsoring club name is and the name of the grant project. Because this case is the grant adjustment required, the message is clear, and if there were any comments from the user who moved it through here, they would display. Each of these messages are already here with the exception of the one we talked about. This was one that the club or this district rather specifically created, but we can continue to add new templates. We have name, which is a name for the district to be aware of what it does, the subject to the message, whatever is going to the members, and all of the HTML details. I won't get into all of the merge fields, but rest assured merge fields work here like they do everywhere else. And some really important ones are probably the grant project name, the person who's sponsoring or not the person, but the club that is sponsoring the grant, and potentially the sponsored club contact. That way you know this is about Club A's grant and not your own club's grant. That is a very good thing to make sure that you include on any of those messages. That way the message being received by all the different groups of people can get through that. All right, let's take a look here at our district grant workflow. So bear with me just one moment. I did not prep one of my documents that I need here, and I'm working to do that right now. Is this the right document that I am looking for? Ha, it is. Fantastic. So I'm going to open something up here real quick just so as to go. The article is a little old, but the thing I want to show you is still 100% relevant and accurate. So sorry to take us to a giant workflow. And I know for some people it potentially may not be incredibly visible, but I'm going to do my best to get as much of it on the screen as I can. This is the grants overview and how the grant can move through the different process. This file is available on clubrunnersupport.com. It is actually part of both the standard grant module for club and grant module for administrators, but this is the best example that I have right now of this, so I wanted to make sure I share it. So the general workflow goes that the individual who's submitting the grants submits the initial request. That brings it into the grants module under the initially submitted request status. And once an administrator views it, they'll have an option to move it to under review. Once the grant is under review, it has kind of started its first part of the process. Nothing actually happens unless you configure it, but once it's under review, it's kind of ready to move into different stages. And it's at this point, as an administrator, you'd be able to reject or cancel the grants. You could also approve the grant or request more information. Request more information and provide more information is a really powerful workflow for our grants. Basically, if the club submits something incorrectly or they still have action items to keep moving through, you can put it into the request more information status, and they are prompted via notifications to come and provide more information. At which point they can actually provide more of that information, and it goes back to the more information provided status, at which point we can continue to loop that back and forth. So if the club didn't provide all of the steps, or they did the first thing correctly and now they need to do the second thing, you can keep working through this little cycle up until the point that it is good and you are happy with it. From approved, you can also go in to make adjustments, which again is a very similar little workflow cycle like request more information and provide more information. From the approved status, you can fund the grants, which means in theory you have cut a check to them and sent it to him. After which, hopefully the club provides their individual project report, or you request that they do so, and you can mark it completed. At which point you could fully archive the grant and stamp it with a final stamp of approval that nothing will change going forward. If in any of these stages, you can also move grants back to the canceled state. And from the canceled state, you can also reject the application and or resubmit it. Or additionally, in the canceled state, you can also delete the grant if for any reason the grant should not be in the system anymore, or it was inappropriate to begin with. Once grants are deleted, they are gone. However, for most other statuses, if for some reason it's stuck there and you wouldn't be able to move it, like for example, if it got archived, we can provide some assistance to unarchive things, but once it's deleted, it is gone. All right, so let's actually talk about grant submission, and then I can reinforce the grants overview as part of that once we have moved a grant all the way through. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other grant processes as well. So let's go ahead and get to the submit a grant request. So once again on our screen here, you can see that we're being asked to submit our grant request, and you can see that there is administrative help text here. So once again, I as a grant administrator, I am able to fully update the grant help text and make any changes. So if there was something that you wanted the clubs to do or something that you wanted the clubs to not do, you would be able to put those instructions here, and each and every person that comes through this process will see those at the top of the screen, including the administrators. So for today's project, we usually like to do codes for kids, but I decided to change it up a little bit. We're going to be doing the dictionary project for this grant request. I'm not sure if this is entirely an appropriate grant request for a grant, because I know that grants have a whole bunch of different requirements, and every district does things a little bit different, but I did want to highlight a little bit different project. So under our project name, we are going to put the dictionary project. We are listing this in the current 2022-2024 project year. Our primary contact is going to be Enrica. This has pulled the rest of the club's general contact information in here, and we are going to put a quick description that I have pre-prepared in the background. And our total estimated budget for this project is $2,300. We'll go ahead and submit this grant request so that we can see what it looks like after the initial grant request is done. So you can see that we do get a nice little thank you for submission, and that would be as a user or an administrator. We can now come back to view club grants. It has dropped us in 2024-25, but we can move back to 2023-24, and we can take a look at our grants. So we can see that this grant is in the initial request submitted, and I believe if I refresh the page, it should be moved automatically to under review because I am an administrator, and now that I'm looking at the grants, it is now automatically under review. From here, we can see a series of different tabs and information that the club has to provide for each of these stages. And as we fill out this, we will continue to push more of the grant through. So right now, I, as an administrator, looking at this grant, I would like the club to put more information in. So we are going to put it back into the request more information status. And I'm going to ask them, please update your details page and details page, application, and budget to be considered to have your grant considered. So as an administrator, I'm going to send this grant over, and it's now going to enter the awaiting status. For the sake of time, so I am not bouncing back and forth between two different browsers and accounts, I am going to stay on as Aaron. In the administrator case, we will reload the page, not that it changes too much, but we will now tackle those changes and continue to push things through. So in a normal scenario, Enrica would have received that information that, hey, thanks for submitting your grant. We now need you to do more things. And either Enrica or a club officer, president, secretary, treasurer, would be able to come into this grant and continue to make updates. So let's go ahead and fill out a little bit more of the information. So let's add one of our local club partners here. In this case, we are partnering with the Rotary Club of Islington. And I believe what we have set up is that the partner club is providing us $500. Fantastic. So we have our local club partner with our individual contact who we're working with there and their contribution of $500. We don't have any other partners working with us for this, so we can ignore this. But of course, if your district was very strict about that, or you have to have another partner, you can obviously make sure that the description text is really good and encourage them to do so. Let's take a look at the application page. So you can see here that there are general boxes for the grant user or the user moving through the grant system to take advantage of and fill out. And of course, you can prompt them at each one of these through the grant help text to help them make decisions about or provide insight into how they need to fill these sections out. So I do want to add a general description for this. All right, and I have it pre-prepared here. And I want to do the community impact and the need, as well as time here. Effectively, for every district, they do take the time to customize this. So for example, if your district no longer needs to do the community assessment or impact, or it no longer needs to do the sustainability, it's very easy to come in and modify the description here and give the users direct insight into what they need to do. So for example, if you didn't need them to fill out a section, I would strongly encourage you to update the grant help text to imply just that. So we have cooperating organizations, which we mentioned on the other page as our club, and we have our implementation plan. So let's go ahead and add to our budget as well, because I know this is also a really not just an important part of this entire process. So we have a few expected expenses in here. We need to purchase these dictionaries. The supplier is the dictionary company. We'll just leave it at that. And the amount that we are going to need for these dictionaries is $2,000. We also have to pay to get them shipped and delivered to us. Yes, I had $300 down there, and USPS. Fantastic. So those are this is the only cost that this grant application has. They need $2,300 in total, and we're now going to list out the income to show where all those funding sources are going to come from. So our Kipling contribution. The Rotary Club of Kipling is bringing $1,000 to this project. The partner club is also bringing $500 to this project. So we have most of, but not our entire budget. And the last part of this is the district's contribution that we're looking for. And this club is currently looking for $800 for district funding. Fantastic. So now we have our expected expenses, which are $2,000 for the dictionaries, $300 for shipping through USPS, and then we also have $500 for income. We have $500 from our partner club. We have $1,000 from the host club, and we're asking the district effectively for $800, which is how much we're asking for in the grant. Now that we've provided that information, we can press this button even as a regular normal, and we can let them know we've provided the requested information. Please let us know next steps. We'll go ahead and hit send. As the club and district work together to continue working on this grant and seeing it through, they will continue to update it, for example, adding more information into the document section. Documents here are the same across all of ClubRunner. You can add most types of files that you would expect, and you can add up to 15 megabytes per file. There are no other actual storage restrictions outside of the 15 megabytes per file. In addition to our documents, we have our project overview, and this is a roll-up of all of the information provided so far. The details, the application, the budget, the documents, all roll up into the project overview. And you can see any of the text that we had provided ourselves is showing up here now, as well as the help text implying what we should or shouldn't do. Scrolling back up to the top slowly here, we also have the individual project report. So in most cases for districts, this is after the project has concluded, or at least after a lot of the things have gone on, we have some default items here, including the default help text, and it's to describe what it's done. Describe the project, what was done, where, when it took place, who benefited, etc. We also have the final financial report. So we know that the partner club gave 500, the Kipling club gave 1,000. We know we're going to move forward with this grant. So I am going to add the district's contributions here. And this will help connect all of the dots with the system. So the district has approved their grant request of $800. Grant request approves. 800. And now we can see that everything for the financial report balances out. We have $2,300 for expected income, and we have $2,300 for expected expenses. Now, of course, if any of these estimates changed, there's an expectation to make sure that they got those updated, listed any of the tax and other details that are required. Finally, we have the activity log tab. The activity log tab lets us have an overview of the actions that were taken by each of the users who have moved this process along the entire time. So we can see here each of the actions. So Aaron initially submitted it. Aaron changed the status from under initial status submitted to under review when he actioned it. Then he asked specifically, can you add, please update this information, and acting as the club, he pushed it back. So every single stage change that occurs from someone approving, requesting more information, rejecting or canceling a grant, and any of the other status changes that occur, they will continue to update the activity log, and the activity log is applicable to include on the project overview. So if you want, you can include the activity log, which you'll see down here at the bottom, all the status changes that went through. All right, continuing to move right along here. Thank you for all of your patience while I'm moving screens and tabs and everything. All right. So let's continue to move this grant along, pretending that the club has done everything that they're supposed to do. And I think in this case, they mostly have. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the grant. You can see we always get a comment box. We are not required to provide a comment, but I would suggest it. It's really helpful. From here, if there were still more changes, we could ask them to make adjustments. I'm just going to say no comment. From here, they can update it and they can either request clarification on why the adjustments were required or move it through it, at which point we can move it back to approved. If everything was good and we were really happy with it, we could fund it. At least for the concept of the grants module, at the point that it's funded, we usually expect the district to also put in some details to say that they did cut that check, and we can go ahead and do that. So we're going to quickly go into the district grants section. We're going to go into the district grants cash flow. I am going to hit add a transaction. We are going to select the dictionary project, and we are going to do an $800 payment because their grant was approved. Approved payment for project. Go ahead and hit create or save there, and we can see now that they've paid it out. It has an $800 impact on the district's total grant budget. And if we could head back to the financial side, oh, no, sorry. If we head back to the district's, where am I? I'm a little confused here, guys. Where was, I think I wanted the grants dashboard. Thank you for that. Moving back. So now we can see that that cash flow is continuing to move forward. So as we have taken our initial allocated of $50,000, we have about 10,000 of it pending. We have 7,550 that's approved, and we have $32,450 still remaining for the grants for this calendar or for this organizational year. The grants dashboard is a really good place for the administrators, just to touch on it really quick. Things that the grant admins can move along are always come up to your attention. And as a grant administrator or a grant user for that matter, you will have access to all the grants in the system, and you'll be able to see the listing of all of the grants and their current statuses. You also get a quick overview of the budgeted funds and cash flow for the district. From here, you can also navigate into all of the grants. Now, another item that I do want to touch on before I wrap up here is I do want to touch on grants access. I've been making mentions of it throughout the webinar, so just to touch on it as a final item here for our grants preview. There are three types of access rights for the grants system. There are the specific rights that the system can assign to an administrator. So for example, here we can see Aaron is a grant administrator. And as I mentioned earlier, grant administrators have full access to the grants module. They can make any changes, update all grants. There's really nothing they can't do. If they can't do something, it's probably not possible at all, at least not through the system. Grant users are one level down. You can kind of think about them as moderators or committee chairs. They have access to manage all of the grants, but they can't change the way the grants module works. They can't update help text, but they can view all of the grants. They can interact with all of the grants, and they can move their grants through all of their statuses. So typically, I would recommend whoever your big person is overseeing the grants each year, you probably want one or two grant administrators, but most of the other members who are day-to-day helping move grants along, your other grants committee members, you really want them to be grants users. That way they can't change help text accidentally, which comes up from time to time. Now, there's a third access that we talked about initially, and that is those qualified members. So heading back to the district grants section and then pulling up the qualified clubs, every user who is qualified as a grant member also receives a background permission. It lets them submit grants and manage the grants for their club. Lastly, the last category of people who get access are the club's executives. Once the club is qualified and there is at least one grant contact, any club officer, president, secretary, for ClubRunner, the officers you've designated with executive access, they will be able to also come and view the grant, update the grant and move it along, but all the notifications always go to the grant contact. So I think that's about all we have for the overall on the grants module. I would like to hand it over to Omar to handle any Q&A if we got a couple.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, that was a great webinar, and we did get a handful of questions, some in the chat, but I did leave one to answer live. I'll go ahead and share the question. Brian asks, when I reply after an initial grant is submitted and ask for more information, is the text they enter in the grant status update emailed to the user? And I see you're already hovering over where we include that.
So the answer should be yes, as long as the district hasn't customized the template and removed it, or if your district has been using the district's module, the grants module long enough, you might not have any of those updated templates. But initial request submitted. Okay, this is to the club and to the AG, so I'm going to look here. No, we did not. So this is the custom one that we made. We did not include it there. But in a lot of cases, I just want to, no, we don't have it there.
That's okay, Zach. In the Zoom chat, I shared the link to our article on our knowledge base with the default text. So if you guys have changed your grant email templates, you can use that article I shared in the Zoom chat. And we've got one right here too. So where Zach has pulled up this preview of the grant email template, when you set a grant to ask for more information, it includes the comments you write in the text box in the italicized line where Zach has placed his cursor, where it begins with $grant current status comment $. Your comment is directly copied and pasted into the email right there. If for some reason your email template doesn't include that merge field, that's what we call the text between the $. You can copy it from the article I've linked in the Zoom chat, or you can even replace it. I think there's also a tool to reset the templates from this page as well.
I think that's why we have them on the thing, but I know that's
Okay.
something that we're going to be working on for the future. We have a bunch of great feedback for the grants module and where we're going to be taking it. Nothing I can share here today with everybody, but we do have some stuff on the horizon for grants.
Yeah. So that was the last live question we have, but we do have some prepared questions in case. So next I have here is how long our grants and their related details are stored in the district's grants module.
Okay, so for that, per Rotor's requirements, ClubRunner obviously stores the documents for a minimum of 5 years. Even if your district decides to stop subscribing to the grants module midway through, we would of course be able to provide access. But otherwise, we currently store grants documents indefinitely for our clubs unless they or clubs and districts unless they explicitly request a removal.
Awesome. Thank you. The next prepared question we have here, and if you guys have any questions, definitely submit them in the Q&A box. We'll take them up while we have time. But the next one we've got here is how can we set up different notifications to go to different people when a grant changes status? Where can we manage those notifications?
We are actually almost in the right spot. So here are the email templates that we connect with those notifications. But to reinforce what we talked about earlier is for the notification system, whenever you create or modify those notifications, you can choose the from status, the to status, and then the message template in addition to the recipients. So I think our initial one was we went from any status to initial status initial request submitted, and we made it to go to the club contacts and the area governor. And we specifically use that. But of course, you could add 4 different messages and have one for admins and one for users and one for the club contact and one for the area governor. The only confusion is over time, that's a lot of different notifications going to different templates, but it's all possible for that notifications module here.
Awesome. Yeah. And you'll see from the list here, some changes like any status to more information provided that Zach's hovering over is sent to the administrators and users, but not the club contact or area governor. So you can manage those under edit notifications in the grants module. Next prepared question we have here is, and we did cover this, I know we did, but how do we qualify a club who can submit grant requests from the club to the district?
Right. So as a reminder for club qualification, it is settings based. So every district can set up different requirements. But if your club is not qualified, it will be here on this list. They will not be checked. And from there, you would be able to go in and adjust that. I guess just as an aside and a way to kind of talk about this a little more is I did talk about an extreme case where you have no trained members and no MOUs. And if you come back to the list of qualified clubs, you will see that every club is automatically qualified. And while we technically support this, I'm just going to say out loud, we very much don't recommend it, but I get this request once a year. I encourage clubs and districts not to take it, but since we get it, I want to just touch on it. The only extra requirement in this configuration is that, for example, Downsview Park Rotaract and the Rotary Club of Castle Frank, they don't have any trained members. They won't be able to submit a grant because they don't have a grant contact. So while it is true that they can now submit grants, there's no contact for it to come down to. So you do need at least one trained member in there for a contact. But you could even make that, as an example, another user that you never expire. So all the clubs in the district are always qualified to submit grants. And of course, if you wanted to see who was qualified, you can either click on the name of the club or view members. We'll go ahead and click on the name of the club. And we can see here that Skipper and Dario are trained, and they have been effective since April 6, 2023. Now, as we, just as an example, because I don't think we set up any expiry users, I will set an expiry, and I will set it from a couple days ago. And we can now, wait, did he not expire? Wait, did I not hit save? Oh no, expires on May 1st, 2024. Correct, okay, save. So he's technically qualified for this whole year. If we go to the following year, you will see that his access has now expired.
Awesome. Yeah, and you can set train members to fall off using that expires on date. Thank you. Next and the last prepared question we have for today, but of course, if you guys have more questions, feel free to share them in the chat or in the Q&A box. And I did get a question about checking on a district's qualified club status. We can't show that over our recorded webinar today, but I am reaching out to the gentleman who asked the question. So no need to worry, we will follow up. The last prepared question we have is, how do we return an approved grant to under review or any other status? Can we change that status?
In most cases, you can move grants back around. So in this case, this is approved. We have to cancel or reject the grant. So go ahead and cancel it. I won't enter a comment. From here, we can now resubmit the grant. And now it is back to the under approved status. So not too bad. You'll generate a little bit of activity in the log. You might want to have some, you might want to add some, if you have notices for canceling a grant, for example, you might want to make sure you add a comment in there and make sure that template also has that comment, hey, we're temporarily canceling your grant, so that we can put it back into the correct status.
Thank you. That's a very good a tip while canceling a grant in case you need to change details after it's been approved. I've gone through all the questions we have prepared for today. I'd love to hang around another minute or two in case there are other questions, but if we've got more content to show, I'd love to show our knowledge base and where they can find more information about the grants module.
Yeah, absolutely. So just while we're waiting to see if there are any other questions here, I'm just going to call out clubrunnersupport.com. It is by far the best way to get in touch with our team. We have news articles like product updates, like our release notes from early last year. We also post announcements about all of our changeover training series. If there are any office closures that are impacting our support resources, or just general issues with the platform. You know, if there's a big disruption, we will absolutely post about it as soon as humanly as we can. But in addition to the news, you also have access to all of our videos and webinars. You have access to tons of help articles, manuals for the different parts of the system. And of course, you can contact us. It's really easy just to fill out this form and hit submit, and that message comes right to our team.
And you can set priority to those requests. So in case you really need our team to check on an issue, you can set it urgent, and we typically follow up on those issues within 2 business hours of our operating hours, 9 to 5 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. If we just scroll down the knowledge base, though, I think there is an easy grants section we can click to, and it has all of our articles for both administrators and is it under the district help section?
It is.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Yes. So under district administration grants, and we have management guides for your grant administrators and grant users guides for the users who push along club grant requests.
Oh, it looks like we got one more question here while we were waiting. Brian asks, he has a question on canceled grants. So Brian, go ahead and either type in the rest of that question or enter it into the chat, and I will do my best to see, or Omar and I will do our best to see if we can't see you through on that. And if it's too big to answer here, one of us will reach out to you and help make sure to get you seen through.
Yeah.
We'll give Brian just a minute here to see to get his question in.
I guess while we wait,
Well,
where
I think
can
Brian raised his hand, but Brian, the way I do apologize. The way we have the webinar set up, I can't let you speak right now for the video. But if you want to, if you can put your question into chat or into add it into the Q&A, we'll get it there. And like I said, if for some reason we can't address it here, we'll definitely reach out to you via email or phone.
Yeah, I will be sure to, if we don't get your question, Brian, I'll be sure to reach out to ask them. But while we wait, where can an interested district learn more, view pricing for our district grants? Where can they find that information?
Fantastic question, Omar. So clubrunner.ca, or if you go to clubrunner.com, you will land directly on clubrunner.ca. All of our pricing and information is public information. It's all here. So if we wanted to take a look at it, I could head to the features page, and I'm pretty sure the grants module is here at the bottom. And from here, we can view more information about the grants module, a lot of the information that I just went under today. And we do have pricing. We do have pricing above 5,000 members, but we don't have too many more districts that are in that category of size. But I'll let you in on a little secret. It's $100 more than the last tier. So the base for our subscribers, the standard grants module does start at $995 a year, and it just continues at that price. If you're up one tier, each tier of membership is just another $100 on the module, but that's it otherwise. We do have this option for our non-subscribing districts. There is a setup fee for us to process all of that, but it is an option that we have available.
Yeah, and we also offer grants trials. So if you guys would like to just get your feet wet with the grants module before ordering, you'll see on the top right of the screen, free trial. On that form, you can change the product of interest to grant, fill out the form, press submit, and as long as you're entered as an administrator for the account, we'll get it set up. I believe 2 weeks, but you can request extensions to the trial if you'd like to configure it a little more.
All right, so I see Brian has put his question in, and I don't think we can answer that very easily here in the webinar, because I think it's going to be pretty or somewhat specific to his circumstances. So Brian, Omar, or I will reach out shortly after the webinar, probably via email at least to get started, and we'll go from there. Because yeah, like I have a feeling, I basically have a feeling that it shouldn't be that bad to get through, but I don't want to embarrass myself here on the webinar. So yeah, we'll reach out to you, and we'll make sure we get that accurately and help you see that through. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We really, both Omar and I really appreciated all your time and your questions and your patience with us as we were working through everything. Just to reiterate some of the items that we just kind of went over, our team is available Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're even available in some limited windows outside of the weekend, but you can always send us an email by contacting us at support, SUPPORT, at clubrunner.ca. You can, of course, find all of your support articles, resources, and eventually today's webinar at clubrunnersupport.com. we would encourage you to check out our ClubRunner community. The only thing you need to bring is your ClubRunner login. Go to clubrunnercommunity.com, hit login, and the first time, if you've never been a member before in the community, we'll ask you to set up your profile so you can participate. All of the members of our community are from specifically the ClubRunner platform, so they're other Rotarians like yourselves, in addition to the various other service organizations and other organizations that use ClubRunner. Lastly, I would just really want to call out, please check out our mobile app. It is an absolute fantastic member resources. If you're saying, hey, it's really hard for my members say it's really hard to remember a website and their login name and everything else like that, the app gets rid of most of those frustrations for them and really is a pleasant day-to-day using experience. They get access to a virtual directory of all the members' information based on their privacy information. They can search for members both across their club and district, and receive notification and updates and update their profiles. More functionality will be coming to the mobile app as we continue to proceed too. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us here today for the ClubRunner District Grants training for grants administrators.
Thank you again, everyone.
Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you at all the other sessions. Don't forget to sign up, clubrunner.com/training.